Rev up your engines!
There might be a big deal banning Chinese-made or Chinese hardware and software-equipped cars. The outgoing Biden administration is banning vehicles that have Chinese and Russian-owned software and hardware over national security fears. Now, these new rules will prohibit automakers with close ties to China or Russia from selling new vehicles in the U.S. The software ban in model year 2027, okay, 2 years now, right? And that hardware restrictions on ones built in Russia or China kick in the year 2030. So we're talking way in the future. Between now and then, many things can change. There's a new administration in, so who knows what's actually coming out. But the whole gist of the matter is modern cars have computers that talk to everything. They listen to you. Some of them film what you're doing, and they're worried it's going to be a national security concern. They could shut all our cars off while we're going to work or whatever. You know? It would affect if Chinese cars could be imported in the United States. It wouldn't really matter about Russian cars. Nobody buys Russian cars. They're piles of junk. Even the Russians don't want to buy them. So, but the Chinese cars could be a big deal. But between now and then, now and 2030, with the hardware version, a lot of things can change, especially in the automotive industry. Well, the United States government is certainly in arrears. The budget deficit rose in December, and it is now 40% higher than it was a year ago. All they're doing is borrowing money. And the reason the deficit is 40% more than it was a year ago was because of rising interest rates. A lot of the operations, they just borrow money. When the interest rate was almost nothing, it's pretty cheap to borrow money. But when the interest rates go up, cost more money, that's one of the main reasons that the budget deficit is now 40% higher than it was last year at the same time. And to put that in context, that 40% means it's $200 billion more. They're giving money away to all these people, all this stuff. Who's paying for it? Well, I guess nobody's paying for it because it's a deficit. They're just borrowing money. They owe more money that basically they can't pay back. So then they just say, oh, well, we'll extend it to the future. You ever notice near the end of the year, they always have that BS in Washington. We're going to shut the government down. Oh, we'll have an emergency spending bill that allows us to borrow even more money. The national debt is now $36 trillion. This is borrowed money, people. Debt means borrowed money when the government talks about it. So the United States government gets deeper and deeper in debt. Brother-in-law was economics teacher. He told me years ago, he said, Scotty, I don't know how the U.S. government keeps going. He says, there's so much in debt, they owe so much money. He told me that like a decade and a half ago. The thing is, they kept the interest rate so low, they could keep borrowing money cheaply. Of course, what did that lead to? Our inflationary economy we live in. And don't listen to those horse manure government economists who say, oh, we only have a 2.5% inflation. Baloney. You can multiply it by 10 or 20 compared to what they say that it is. The price of insurance, the price of cars, the price of everything, groceries, right? They just lie to you. So don't worry, it's not really bad. Yes, it is. It's horrible. I never even want to talk about the debt. We'll just borrow more money. Oh, we're going to shut the government down if we don't borrow more money and move the debt further down to the next future years. Yeah, well, I guess eventually the future becomes the present and there's all this money that's owed. What's going to happen? Well, it's a nice play on words, at least. Trump says he's going to create an external revenue service to collect tariffs and get foreign revenue. Of course, we pay to the IRS, which is internal revenues, right? People inside the United States paying taxes. Well, everybody likes the idea of external tax. Let somebody else pay the tax, right? What it comes down to is we, the people, are always going to end up paying. So even though you're not actually paying it on your IRS form, and it's now an external tax the foreigners pay, you'll be paying more for your goods. Doesn't really matter if you give your money to Walmart or you give your money to the Internal Revenue Service. Either way, your money is disappearing, right? Well, Donald Trump said Tuesday that he's going to create, in quotes, an external revenue service to collect tariffs, duties, and all revenue from foreign sources. Yeah, it sounds like a great idea, but like I said, you're going to pay either way. Or these countries will then put tariffs on American companies doing business overseas, and that'll screw up the American companies. Their sales will go down. Canada buys a lot more stuff from the United States than we buy from them. And a large percentage of what we buy from them is oil and gas. Put a tariff on that, price of our oil and gas will go up, right? That should actually be the whole thing of the Constitution. It just started as we, the people, have to pay for everything. I always warn people about going to places that hire people that don't know what they're doing and that don't care. Well, here's a guy on TikTok. He went to Walmart, and what did he do? He took his car there, and it sounded weird immediately. So he went under the car. He saw that the oil drain plug was loose. So out of curiosity, he took it off with his fingers and no oil came out. They had emptied his oil and they didn't put any new oil in. Now, it's probably damaged his engine. He didn't drive it, but backed it up. But still, that's enough to ruin your engine, although there is a little bit of oil when they changed the oil left in the filter and stuff. So it could be that there was enough just for that. You can't trust these people. They do lousy work half the time. I had a customer have it done with them, and it did blow. It was a girl. She didn't know anything about cars. Her father towed the car to me, and I said, your engine's blown. I said, there's no oil in it. I said, well, we just took it there to get an oil change. I said, well, they didn't put any oil in it. There's also cases, and I've seen it myself, and there's a bunch of people on the internet the same thing. They'd go there, and they didn't put enough oil in. In one case, it was the 6 quarts they needed, and they only put in 4. Well, that's not enough to damage anything yet. So at least that didn't hurt anything. But the fact that they have these idiots working there, and the guy who got 6 quarts instead of 4 took it back and said, look, it's low. It's not even on a dipstick, because when you're under 2 quarts, it won't even show on a dipstick. But that shows you the idiots that work at this. This is why you don't want to go to these places. That's why you want to watch my videos. Learn how to change your own oil. Or at least get a relationship with some place that changes oil. You talk to the manager and say, look, buddy, don't try to sell me the kitchen sink. I've got a regular mechanic, but he doesn't want to do oil changes. I will do all my oil changes here forever, but don't screw up and learn how much your car takes. Say, my car takes 4.5 quarts of oil. Make sure 4.5 quarts are put in. Make sure you change the filter and everything. Then, before I want you to pick it up, my advice is to park it on a flat surface, turn the engine off, wait 2 minutes, check the oil to make sure it's full of oil. You can't trust people these days. You just can't, especially big places like Walmart. They're just disaster is waiting to happen to people that they hire in those places and the quality work that they don't do. Well, old Elon Musk has had it with nonsense again. Now he said that his boring company, if you don't know what his boring company is, they bore tunnels and they don't make too many because nobody wants to pay for them, right? He says, my company can dig the $20 trillion tunnel connecting America with Europe for 1,000 times less money. That's what he says. There are, of course, no actual plans to do it, but if it did cost $20 trillion to build a tunnel under the Atlantic Ocean from the United States to Europe, realize $20 trillion is almost the entire gross national product of the United States to build some stinking tunnel. Like, we got planes to go to Europe, right? Can you imagine the fiascos of building something like that? It would collapse. You'd be in the middle of the ocean, under the ocean, it collapses. Goodbye. I don't think I'd want to be under the ocean in anything that Elon Musk makes. I don't even want to go in his cars. I certainly wouldn't want to go under the ocean. But, as usual, he's tweeting crazy things. Because that's what he does. I can build it cheaper. This guy can't build anything cheaper. Everything he does costs a bunch of money. Whoever came up with this idea, boy, yeah, let's build a tunnel on the Atlantic Ocean. Sounds like a really wise use of funds, right? Well, you think things are crazy here. It's even crazier in South Korea. The South Korean impeached president was arrested after investigators scaled walls, cut through barbed wires, and got the guy. Yoon Suk-yeol was the first sitting president of Korea to be arrested. And the investigators climbed over barricades, cut through barbed wire to take him in custody. And then his lawyer said, they can't do that. That's not legal to do that. Hey, guy was arrested, you know, he's supposed to be taken away, but he thought he'd hide with his security guards. I guess they had some kind of clash of, you know, you're going to have to let go of the guy. So they snuck in under the cover of darkness, I guess, cut the barbed wire and got him. Now, Yoon, who is 64, is being investigated for charges of insurrection and for a failed martial law order on 3rd of December that plunged Korea into turmoil. He was also impeached by the parliament and suspended. But he's only going to be removed from office if the Constitutional Court upholds the impeachment. So he's been hiding for weeks in his little mansion behind barbed wire and fences, but they got him. Now this arrest team, this is one arrest team. It was over 1,000 people they sent to get the guy. Maybe they should have brought tanks with them, yeah? And here's what the guy says. Politicians all throughout the world are full of baloney. Here's what he said after they grabbed him, right? Then he says, I have decided to appear before the C-10, even though it is an illegal investigation, in order to prevent any unsavory bloodshed. Yeah, he said that. I'm going to appear after they grabbed him. He's acting like it was his choice, you know? It's like the guy saying, you can't fire me, I quit. Well, you think things are crazy here? They're even nuttier in South Korea. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.